Hi, sorry, took a second to authorize the phone to let me be heard, you know. How
Or
are you?
I'm doing really well. Let's first things first. What's the right pronunciation of your name? I ask because I always get that question with my name. Is it
Yeah,
Irit?
I can so totally relate. So it is Irit with a hard T. It's a
Love
long, complicated story I won't get into with Spanish vowels and pretend the H is silent.
Ooh, love it. That's definitely a story I want to get into at some point. So we're excited to talk to you about the sophisticated dog, to just learn a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur, and to talk about what you've learned along the way that other community members who are just getting started and those who are trying to take their business to the next level can learn from.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk about that too. You know, it's funny when the how to put it, when the pandemic started, one of the things I discovered was that a lot of people had no idea how to take their business online. And I'm part of a trainer community here in Los Angeles. We have sort of this trainer community that crosses actually a couple of counties. And all these people kept saying to me, how are you doing this stuff online? How are you doing this online? And I actually wound up doing a series of presentations for free because I really wanted to benefit my colleagues, basically like walking them through the steps of here's how you set up an online session. Here's how here are some options for ways to get paid. Here are some ways to make sure that the client can be seen and that you can be seen. And then just sort of walking them through some of the more practical issues of how do you train when you're not a person.
Right.
And I'm just really, really lucky because I started doing online training years ago, like a long time before the pandemic. I've been doing online training for at least, I'd say 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. I actually don't remember when my first online client was. I go back so far with online training that there was no Zoom.
Oh, you're kidding. It's hard to believe that.
I would do like Skype and Facebook.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And now people are like, oh, can we do an online session on Skype? I'm like, no, it's so much better for me. But, nothing against Skype, but it's just not what the tool is meant for. It's really not.
Yeah.
So, so I've been doing this for a while and it's been really fun and really successful and in a lot of ways that I didn't expect too.
Say a little bit about that.
Well, so one of the things I've noticed, so before, as I said, for years now, I have been helping people both online and in person.
Right.
But when the pandemic hit, I went exclusively online for a few months while we were all sorting out like who's going to get sick and how are we getting sick. And, when we were all just in sort of real true lockdown.
Yeah.
Shock, absolutely. And so for a while I was 100% online and now I'm probably like 90% online, honestly, maybe even a little higher. And what I noticed is that my online clients got better results than my in-person clients.
That is hard to believe. What's the secret there?
Well, so I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And basically what it comes down to is that if I'm there in person, people are really inclined to hand me the leash.
I see.
And kind of say, hey, can you show me how to do this? Can you teach my dog to do it? And what that means is that I get to practice skills that I don't really need to practice.
Right.
I don't mean this, I'm not like patting myself on the back. It's just a fact. Otherwise I wouldn't be in this industry. I'm good at training dogs. I'm not the one who needs how to learn how to train their dog Fifi. They're the ones who need to learn how to train their dog.
You know what? I've heard that like you spend a fair amount of time when you're in person building that direct relationship with the dog when it's really not about your relationship with the dog. It's about the pet parent's relationship.
Exactly.
So take that out of the way.
Yes. And so when I'm online, they can't lean on me. They can't use me as sort of a training wheels.
Right.
They to actually do it. And what I find is we very quickly figure out if they can't do it. Like if I've done it in a way that doesn't work for them,
right,
asking them to do, then I'm like, oh, okay, in that case, let's change it. Let's this way and see, does this work for you? Like, do you as a person, work better with this technique or that technique? Let's find the thing that works for you because you live 24 hours a day with your dog. And
No, is it, but it isn't like a challenging setup with the camera? Like, are they like obsessing about like, can you see what he or she is doing right now? Like, is it like, do they have to have a couple phones or what have you for you to like see every angle?
oh, so that's such a great question. And I have to say, like, it depends, which by the way, if you ever talk to a dog trainer about anything, they're going to say it depends. It's like our like,
Like a weatherman, right?
yeah,
Like it depends, right?
it depends. You never know. Every case is different. But what I've found is most people don't get very self-conscious about it, which is nice. I think part of that is that at this point we're all trained. We're all a little bit like Zoom savvy and camera
Right.
savvy
Right.
and all that. But also, I just tell people, I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor and just tilt the camera down a little more?
Nice. Okay.
Or aim the camera in this direction. And I make it very, matter of fact, not like you're doing something wrong, but hey, it would be helpful if I could see the floor. I don't need to see necessarily your whole body. I really need to see what the dog is doing at this moment. Or maybe on another occasion, I really don't care what the dog is doing. I want to see what your hands are doing. So I can be, really specific about what I see. Now, having said that, I have had a couple of clients, and it's usually people who have young kids. I'm just going to say that, where they do get like 2 phones and a laptop and an iPad, And I have
all this home, it's all this like remote schooling, virtual learning.
the kids are so good at it, and I get like 4 angles on the dog. I can see the front view and the rear view and the left side and the right
for
side.
YouTube videos, right?
It's actually really great. And so that can be kind of fun. So sometimes if people are worried I'm not going to be able to see it, I'm like, you can log into this call on 2 different devices. Just set one up on your desk.
Right.
Carry the other one around while you're working with the dog, and we'll have 2 angles and I'll have a better shot of seeing. So sometimes I do ask people to do 2 cameras, but I got to tell you, most of the time I don't. Most of the time one camera works well enough.
Well, let me ask you this. What is the most sort of, where do kind of pet professionals have the most anxiety about going online? Like where are folks just like, not sure if I can bridge the gap. I'm not sure if I can make this leap.
Yeah. So what I found, this is going to sound kind of funny, but what I found when I first started into this and like into helping other professionals with this is what I mean, like, a year and a half ago or whenever that was there was definitely an age gap. Like people who were in their 20s, they were like,
no problem. Yeah.
And people who were in their 50s or 60s who have been doing this for, decades in person, were just completely, I have no idea how I could possibly do this. So the first thing for some of those people was to get the technology fear out of it.
Yeah.
Just say, what, the technology is pretty user friendly. And I had a Zoom step-by-step presentation.
Okay.
That I did, that then I got all these follow-up questions. So I made a follow-up presentation answering all the follow-up questions.
Well, so here's what I don't get. Like many of these folks, even the kind of folks over 40 and, over 50, what have you, are Zooming with their kids and grandkids, they're FaceTime, they're doing all of this in their personal life. But when it comes to business, there's sort of like a wall in terms of like, well, can I use the same technology in my business? So that's the part that like really shocks me.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, but what I wound up seeing was that a lot of people were basically saying like, yeah, I've used Zoom before, but how in the world would I do that with a client? And there were the ones that just really hadn't. Like they'd used FaceTime, but FaceTime not ideal for our purposes necessarily.
Yeah.
So just getting them over that sort of, I really don't think it was a rational, like it was sort of technophobia thing that some people were experiencing. We're like, I can't possibly do it. And then the other thing that came up was people were like, but how can I show them what to do if I can't demonstrate? And that's where a lot of people of all ages were sort of getting stuck because they're used to, as we were just discussing, taking the leash in their hand, pulling out the treats, walking the dog through the behavior, which is great in the sense sometimes, you jumpstart the dog and then it's easier for the person who's a new person to this and you're not asking them to, learn how to tap dance while singing the Star Spangled Banner and they've never done either of those things, So in that sense, like, yeah, it's nice. And so people were like, how do I get around that? So there was a lot of discussion of how do you coach without being there in person. And also the use of, like things like sharing videos. So like you were talking about people Zooming or Skyping or FaceTiming with their kids, they're not usually sharing video
Right.
or
Yeah.
resources. And so, just the idea of here's how you do a screen share. If you've got a good video, I don't care if it's your video, it could be Emily Laurelham's video of, this is how you teach a dog to sit. You
Right.
stream the video to them and you say, this is what we're going to do next. And then you step by step it, which is something that all of us dog trainers should really know how to do, and should honestly know how to do better than some people know how to do it, which is to say, like, I'm not going to demo this. I'm going to say to you, take the treat, put it in this position, do this movement, watch for this in the dog, whatever it happens to be. Like if I'm teaching a sit, the classic way to lure a sit, which is not the only way I teach a sit, but that's a side note, is to, like, I sometimes like to just catch the dog sitting. Like dogs just automatically sit. I'm like, oh, you sat, good job, have a treat. I never push a dog down or pull a dog up.
Right.
For dogs who aren't just sort of spontaneously sitting because they're like, I don't know what to do, I think I'll sit, you use a lure, so I would say, like, put the treat right at the dog's nose, and then I watch, is the treat right at the dog's nose? And then I say, now pull that treat upwards, and they pull it upwards, and I see, oh, they're losing contact with the dog. Slow down your hand, or whatever it is. And I can take them step by step through the process, the same way that I would do in person. But for whatever reason, that was hard to imagine for some people.
Oh, is it because those step by steps, those are pretty detailed, because a lot of times if you're in person, they can just see you do it, and you save a lot of time. You don't have to explain every detail. Does that mean that your sessions have to be longer, where it's like I have to explain a lot more than just them observing and seeing?
Great question. And it's so funny, I never thought about it that way. No, my sessions are not longer. They're about the same length. And one of the things I find, how can I put this, for most people, as you get practiced at teaching and explaining, you get more and more efficient at it, right? So one of the things you just pointed out, like sometimes demoing it is easier. Part of it is, for instance, with a food lure, dogs react differently to food lures. So some dogs, if you pull straight up, it works really well. Some dogs you need to pull out a little. Some dogs you need to push towards them a little. Sorry, my hand's getting right in the camera. And what that means is sometimes I don't know what the dog's going to give me. And so I might take an extra minute or two while I'm explaining to them of, you need to push the treat a little bit, almost as if you're trying to tip the dog's head backwards, I might say. And the thing is that it still doesn't take longer because I haven't taken the demo time. So I think it all sort of balances out.
Interesting. So, okay, let's fast forward. How long, like if someone's saying like, look, I'm already have a full schedule of in person. Yes, I'd like to add online for those that haven't yet. What's the reasonable expectation of how you can start to feather online into your kind of work routine, into like both investing in the education around it, but then also starting to bring it into the business?
Right. So such a great question. So the first thing I'll say is, if someone is hesitant about working online, then they definitely shouldn't set some huge goal of like, I'm going to be online only by the end of, 2021, which is a month and a half from now. That's not a realistic goal. What they should do is set themselves sort of a goal of, I'm going to have like one online client or two online clients, or I'll be, depending on the way their business works, some percentage online. But you set a really reasonable goal, and it has to start with one client. And what I usually recommend is find a case that's a pretty straightforward case. Don't start your online training with like, this dog is now being, monitored by animal control because something really, I get these cases. So, don't start with the animal control case. Start with we just adopted a new dog and she doesn't know how to do anything, and we need to teach her basic behaviors. That's a good place to start. Things that we as dog trainers have taught 1,000 times, so we're pretty comfortable, or 10,000 times for that matter. And so we're pretty comfortable teaching those things. So you start with something that's pretty manageable for you, and you tell the client, listen, this online thing is a little bit of an experiment for me. Are you comfortable with that? And if you feel, and I'm going to say right now, I'm about to suggest something that I don't think people should actually do. So just alert, I don't actually want you to do this. But if you feel really uncomfortable, you can say, I'm going to give you a 10% discount because you're my first online client. Now, I'm going to say, don't do that. One of the problems with dog trainers, like everywhere, seems to be that we undervalue our own skills and our own expertise and the value of what we provide. And so we have this tendency to give discounts and feel sorry about our prices. And don't. You're a professional. You've worked hard to gain the knowledge you have. And if you really feel like because it's an online forum, you want to give a discount, just make sure it's only for the first couple sessions.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to then be like, oh, all my online sessions are going to be discounted.
Right.
Because you're going to spend just as much time online as in person. And for me, in fact, what I've found is, in person, you have driving time. Yeah. And so people think, oh, I'll do online sessions and there won't be any driving time and it'll be less, time out of my day, except that you have to somehow provide notes to the person.
Right. All the prep. Yeah.
And so prep and notes and all of that, I have to allow time for that. So the time I would have spent driving, I wind up spending doing those things. Where like in an in-person session, I have I use paper and a pen. I know nobody else does, but I'm old fashioned. So I literally have a piece of paper that says, your tasks for this week. There's like a column for what the task is, and then a little blurb for like key points to remember. And I just say like, bullet points, practice this 5 times a day. Remember to use an empty hand and not the lure because the dog already learned the lure or whatever it is. And then, the next bullet point down, praise the dog anytime you see her lying down and then go grab a treat or whatever. And it's like this simple little thing that I put together. So now I have to do that after the session in some kind of document that I can share with the person. I personally like to just share Google Docs. Google Docs is nice, universal, easy. That's what I use personally. Not everyone loves Google. I know that, but it works for me. And so that's time that you're spending too. So I think sometimes we feel like we should discount because, it's going to take us less time and it's going to be so much easier. And I'm here to tell you folks, it doesn't take less time and it's just as much effort, especially in the beginning. It's going to be more effort because you're stretching your wings and doing new skills you haven't done before. So pick an easy client, don't go out with your most difficult client. Find someone that your personalities mesh well. You're going to be comfortable together. The training tasks are pretty straightforward. And then just start. And then I think that for most people, once they get past the first couple of sessions, it stops feeling so awkward. And then you're like, oh, I could do this with more people.
All day long, right?
Yeah.
So, funny, we've got dog trainers on this live. We've got all sorts of pet professionals, groomers, walkers, and then we've got also beauty and fitness folks. I don't know if they're signing in for their own, pets or if they're just thinking about online for their businesses. So for those that are still on the fence about whether or not online makes sense for them, can you share a little bit about kind of some of the success stories, people who went from zero to like, what we talked to one dog trainer who now trains like zebras in Israel because she's able to do that online, right? And so it's like, okay. So can you share a little bit about, kind of what you've seen, the transformation you've seen in some of the businesses that have really kind of stepped into this?
So, a lot of people wound up training locally through this pandemic with sort of local clients, and then they wound up with these hybrid clients, which is kind of fun. So we meet online for some things, you meet in person for other things, and you wind up with this a work-life balance. It's a little bit easier because you don't necessarily have to be sitting in, here in LA, it's Los Angeles traffic, which is just...
That's the worst kind of traffic.
Just no fun. So, I hear Honolulu's worse actually, sadly. But anyway, so, just being able to decide when they're getting in the car and if they're getting in the car has been such a huge transformation for some of the people I know locally. And then I know other trainers, and I'm definitely one of them, where we've, but again, this starts several years ago, where we've been able to pick up clients worldwide, nationwide, worldwide, depending on the person, like training a zebra in Israel, which I think is totally awesome. You don't really have to be there in person because in the end, the way I look at it, and the way I explain this to my clients is in the end, even if I come to you in person, I'm there for 1 hour out of the week. And the pet parent is there for all of the hours out of the week. And so, you know, it's really not about me learning, like teaching the dog, or the dog forming a relationship with me, or the zebra forming a relationship with me. So like I've a lot of cat professionals work online. And interestingly, cat people, because I train multiple species also, and cat people are very different from dog people in their expectations of what training will look like, and also in their expectations of their pets. That's kind of a side note. Cat people are a little more realistic that cats are cats, and sometimes dog parents expect their dogs to be not dogs in certain ways. But anyway, cat professionals, I know a lot of cat professionals who have taken this opportunity to take their business nationwide, because they really don't need to see the cat in person. Half of the cats out there, a strange person comes into the home, they hide under the couch. You're not going to be able to do anything anyway. And so it's this great opportunity. I find it works really well with fearful pets of any kind: fearful dog, fearful cat, fearful parrot, or an aggressive parrot who, not to pick on parrots, but parrots are under a lot of stress. Living with humans is very unnatural for most parrots. Parrots aren't really meant to live alone. There's a whole slew of things I could go into, but I'm not going to go down that path today. But if the animal is aggressive and a potential danger, you not being there can also be so helpful. So like Michael Shikashio of aggressivedogs.com, really, really well-known trainer, excellent trainer. He does a lot of his work online, and it winds up being really helpful because these dogs are often dangerous, the ones he's working with. And so it's one less opportunity for something to go wrong. So whether it's you've got the aggressive dog cases and you don't want another bite on that dog's history, or you've got the fearful dog cases and you don't want to scare the dog by entering, which then means the dog can't learn as well because they're scared, it can really be an advantage. And that's where I'm seeing some of the pet professionals really seeing the advantage, is in saying, you know what, if I'm not there, I'm not changing the dog's behavior. I can see the dog's behavior as it really is.
You're a wealth of knowledge. We are excited to be talking to you. We're going to move into the lightning round where we just learn about you and the things that you love and care about just as a human. And so we can cheer you on. But we're having Reet back talking to us about how to take your business online and how to take your business to the next level. Pocketooth's really proud to be partnering with the Sophisticated Dog Trainer. So, Reet, tell us, what are you streaming on Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, wherever you stream? What are you watching?
Oh gosh, you know, it's funny. Right now I'm kind of off of Netflix. Like network television came back and I'm like, oh, there's new stuff to watch. So I'm a total like CBS should just pay me. They should just pay me and be done with it, because I watch like 8 different CBS shows. I'm sort of a procedural person, and so that means I watch things like NCIS and FBI, and those have all just come back. And you know, I do stream like Star Trek on Paramount Plus. I'm sort of a Paramount CBS heavy person for whatever reason. And right now I'm not watching anything on Netflix. It's really weird. Like, I'm thinking about it as
stop right now in jeopardy here.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, but I know I'll get back to Netflix, because there's stuff like I really want. Everyone keeps telling me I need to see My Octopus Teacher, and I love, like I said, I work with multiple species, love octopuses. They're amazing animals, you know, and I'm like, why have I not seen this yet? So I need to go back and watch that. I know that's on Netflix.
Okay. And then what's your favorite vacation spot?
The state of Hawaii, basically anywhere in the state of Hawaii. And I have to say, like, I'm originally an East Coast girl. I grew up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Hawaii was like so very far away. Never went there until after I got married, moved to Los Angeles. And now we go every year. Like, I can't, if I don't go to Hawaii once a year, I'm sad.
What's your favorite quote or words to live by?
Words to live by: progress, not perfection. Which is so true, by the way, for the online business thing. Oh, and I'm sorry, I do have to go back and say one thing. If you're going to transfer to online in your business, one of the things you should do is add an online session page to your website. So people know that's an option.
Yeah. So it's not just like something buried in your service list. Make it really pronounced.
Yes.
Love it. So what's coming up for you? Something we can cheer you on around?
Oh gosh. Well, the next thing is actually it starts. I'm looking at my computer calendar as if I don't know what date it is. Starting this weekend, I'm participating in Geek Week, which is the Pet Professional Guild's upcoming event. And I'm speaking a couple of times at Geek Week. So like, feel free to hunt up my name. My last name is Bloom, Bloom, much easier to search than my first name, and find me on Geek Week. I'm going to be speaking at Victoria Stilwell's Dog Behavior Conference again next year. The conference, like there's a wave of conferences in the fall. So the PPG conference is the last one. So I've already done my other two. I'm going to be presenting to Spanish language speakers in a few months in early 2022. So that's, one thing. And then the thing that I'm really excited about right now is some colleagues of mine and I have started a puppy training online program. The membership doors are closed right now, but they will reopen in 2022. We don't have an exact next launch date yet, but it will reopen in 2022. And we also have an associated book. Oh, sorry, say that again?
Always great to be oversubscribed.
Yes. And we also have a book out, which is called Your Puppy and You. And it's 4 authors. It's a team of 4 amazing trainers. We all have different sort of focuses, but we all agree on the fundamentals of how training should look. And between us, we have many decades of experience. It's a little scary, actually, if you think about it too hard. And so, that's been something that I've so enjoyed. That's been totally a passion project. The 4 of us it's a long story, but we all connected because of a program that we signed up for, an online program. And the person organizing the program put us together as an accountability group, and we all just hit it off. And so even when the program ended, we kept meeting. And then when the pandemic started, we were meeting more because we were like, we were in need of human connection. And one day, one of us, I honestly don't remember who, said, we all keep talking about our puppy clients. We should write a puppy book. And that was how it started. So then first it was a book. Now it's a membership.
I love it. I love that story. And I love the notion that you just keep expanding the set of resources that you're putting out there for folks who are just coming up and for pet parents. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Final question, Irit. Where can we follow you? Is it on Facebook, on Instagram? What's your handle so folks can follow you going forward, and your website?
Yes. Okay. So the best place to follow me is Facebook. If you go to my Instagram channel, you're going to see there's like half a dozen posts, and 2 of them will be like, what is this even about? Like, I get mentioned occasionally, but I just don't spend a lot of time on Instagram for whatever reason. I feel like, we all only have about this much social media time, and you got to pick where you put it. And so I'm very comfortable on Facebook for whatever reason. I guess I've been on it long enough. So I'm at facebook.com/thesophisticatedDog. So make sure there's 2 D's, sophisticated, and then another DOG. Or you can just search on Facebook, The Sophisticated Dog, and it'll pop me up. Be aware that there is another company that has a similar name, which, side note, they adopted after I already had the name. So I was a little puzzled by that, but that's okay. So it should just be plain The Sophisticated Dog. If there's anything else after it, because Facebook won't let us have, exactly the same name, it's not me. So you can check me out on Facebook at The Sophisticated Dog. And my website is thesophisticateddog.com. You can also get there by going to choicerichtraining.com and a couple of other URLs that all point to the same place. If you happen to forget the second D in my website, I also have thesophisticatedog.com. I have lots of friends on the internet, so they were like, you might as well just buy the URL you think people are going to misspell. So if you go there, there's a little pop-up. I know how annoying pop-ups are, but hopefully mine is short and not annoying. That basically says join my mailing list. And if you join my mailing list, you'll get when I'm organized enough to do it, occasional messages about, hey, I'm going to be speaking here, I'm going to be doing this, and you'll definitely be on the list for when the membership for the puppy program opens again, if you have interest in that kind of thing. So thesophisticatedDog.com, or I really am on Facebook all the time, facebook.com/thesophisticatedDog.
Awesome. Well, we have really enjoyed connecting with you, learned so much. And again, I think there's an opportunity for us to continue this conversation with the Pocket Suite community for those that are not online yet. So excited to have you back talking to the community. Thank you
so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.